All right, hi everybody. Welcome to the Global Web Index overview. My name is Carolyn Adrian. I'm a customer success manager over here at GWI in our New York office. I also have my colleague Adrian with me as well. So she is available to answer any questions throughout the webinar. Feel free to just write them into the chat box through the webinar platform. And then she can answer those questions as we go along. And also any questions at the end, feel free, we will get back to you on those as well. So first I want to take you through our quick agenda for today. So I'm just going to give you an overview of GWI, basically who we are, what we do, and then why GWI. So why and when would you want to use our data? And then we'll do a little bit of a deep dive through the platform. So here what I'll tell you is the reasons for using the platform in the sense of, having to build a picture for your audience and be able to get the data so you can see the full scope and depth of the data that we have, but also to really be able to see the ins and outs of actually the functionality of the platform, of how to use it. Again, as I mentioned, in terms of questions, feel free to ask questions at any time throughout this webinar, and we will make sure that we get those answered for you. So just a little bit more about GWI so you can get an understanding of who we are. We currently have 350K surveys a year, and that's throughout 40 markets, so 40 different locations throughout the world that we do have our data coming from. We also collect quarterly data. What this means is we do send out a survey every quarter. And then we have the results come out within a few weeks after the end of the quarter. And because of that, we're allowed to have that immediate release. So you do get the most fresh and up-to-date information possible. We have a panel of 18 million panelists, and they're surveyed once a year. So we're not getting the same panelists every quarter. So it will be a very robust sample that we have. And again, because of that, we're able to be representative of the entire internet universe because of the large panel and the number of surveys that we do complete throughout the year. We also have total device coverage. So what that means is we can see if people are using their laptop, PC, tablet, or mobile device, and how they're using those different devices. And also shared device usage. So if you have a device in your household that multiple people use, we can get a feel for if there's a shared device. And the last thing, which is pretty cool too, is the VPN usage. So in certain markets where different things may be blocked, we're able to see if somebody's using a VPN and then cross-reference that to their data to see if they're a VPN user, so we can really see which market they're in and the type of data that they're using. So a few of the key applications for using GWI and for using the Pro platform, our bread and butter definitely is the profiling digital audiences. So how you can build your audiences and then target them to be more effective in these other ways here that you'll see. So for your marketing strategy, your targeted audience and digital strategy, but also you can see trends over time. So I'll show you in the platform how we can go through and see how different things are trending. And this overall just really helps you plan and be more effective with your strategy. On the right-hand side, you'll see a little bit that I'll touch on briefly. We have the capability to do custom studies. So what that would mean is if there's anything you don't see within our core study, any questions or anything you want to dive a little deeper into, we do have the ability to go through and run a custom study. What that means is that we can go ahead and recontact the panelists, ask them a smaller set of questions, and then put that data back into the platform so you can then continue to cross-reference against our 8,500 data points that we have. Also, GWIQ is more of a cookie-based sync that we can do, and that just really helps you, audience target validation, advertising effectiveness, and website audience analytics to really help you, see your ROI on any of your marketing campaigns. So now I'm going to take you in through the platform training. So we'll do a deep dive into what it looks like to go onto the Pro platform. If you have any questions along the way, again, please feel free to type them in and we'll get those answers over to you as soon as possible. So now what you should be seeing on the screen is the login page for the Pro platform. So to give you a little information about what you're seeing here, this is what you see when you log in. So you'll see all the different options of easy access that you can see right in the homepage, but also on the left-hand side is our toolbar that we can go ahead and dive into in a minute. But first up top, I want to point your attention to help mode. So right now I currently have help mode on. And what that means is if you go ahead to the left side over here, you'll see this purple bubble come up. That just gives you a little bit more information about what you're hovering over, but also once we get into the platform, it'll give you some more information about our metrics and some of the numbers that you're seeing as well. We definitely do recommend keeping that on, especially in the beginning, you know, when you're just getting started throughout the platform. It'll be really helpful as you're going through if you have any questions. And then speaking of questions, over here you'll see our chat function. So we use this two ways. One way is that we will go ahead and send out information to you through this, which means that if we have any new releases or anything we want to check on with you, we can go ahead and send these messages to you. So when you log into your platform, you will see those there. Another function of this is that it's our live chat feature. So while you're in the platform, once you get in here on your own, if you have any questions, you can send them through to our chat function. We have our support team as well as the customer success team here who will be able to answer any of those questions that you may have. Great. So now what I want to do is I want to just take you through a few things that you'll see here on the left side. We're going to really dive into mostly Audience Builder and Chart Builder today, but what I want to show you two are a few other things that you'll see at the bottom. So first is reports, infographics, and charts of the day. So first let's go into the reports section. And you'll see here, this is done by our trends team. So we do have quite a few reports already built in here. For example, let's just go ahead and look at some audience reports and look at car buyers, for example, today. So if you see if this is a topic you're interested in, you can go ahead and download it. It automatically pops up here. And these are really good in-depth reports that are based, again, from our trends team. But you'll see at the top of every report, introduction, a little bit more about us, some more information here. Always our methodology, so we're very transparent on how we collect our data and the methodology that we use. So you'll always see that here at the beginning of any report. And then any kind of breakdown here, so key stats or headlines about the report. And then an overview. So this really gets into you know, the meat of this report. So you can see all the trends. What's really good about the reports is that they're very in-depth. So you'll see there's, you know, a lot of wording here, but also you can see that there are some really good charts that go along with it as well. Another really cool thing that I do love about the reports is as you're going through, if you see this icon anywhere throughout, you can click on that and that will automatically take you back into the platform. So you can explore this data. So if you see a chart that you really like, something that you think would fit for an audience that you have, you can go back and explore this really easily back into the platform, plug in your own audiences, and then just generate that information. So it's kind of a way to save some time, but also just really cut to what you're looking for. The next thing to take you through is infographics. So like the reports, this is done by our trends team, and we have these updated, and you can see all the different topics that we have available. So I'll just go into 4G users as an example. Now the difference between the reports and the infographics, infographics are definitely more digestible. They are presented in a way of mostly charts. And these are really great. I always recommend, you know, they're great one-pagers. You can print out, send around to your team if it's something that you're working on, just to have a really good foundation of these different trends and the different type of topics that we do have in here with it through our infographics. And the last thing on here, just to briefly touch on, is charts of the day. So this is something that we put together on a daily basis and gets sent out to your email. So it's something that you can sign up for, and then you would receive an email every day in your inbox that will have a new different chart. So we do explore different topics that are interesting to our users, but also could just really get you thinking about the different data that we have and really see the scope of how you can go about getting that from our platform. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into Audience Builder. So today, really what I want to focus on two things. I want to show you how to use the platform. So really what all these different buttons mean, what the functions are, and how you can use the platform and really flow through the process of building an audience and then querying the data. But also I want to show you how you can use our data to then build a story about the audience that you are creating. So what I'm going to do is today, for the example, I am going to be a women's beauty product company, and I want to see how women in 2 different age ranges consume media through their online activities and behaviors. And then within this audience, we can dive deeper and look at their brand engagement, their recommendation and consideration of specific beauty brands. So we can really paint a very big picture of who our audience is. So this will allow us to see how to use the platform, but also again discover how you can use our data to build and paint a picture of who your target audience is. So the first thing I want to do then obviously is build the audience. So just to show you what you're seeing right here, on the left-hand side are all these audiences that you have already created. So these are audiences I've created in the past, and once you get into the platform and start building more, you will see that list start to expand for you as well. So at any time you can access these. If you click on this, the little marker, you can go ahead and make any edits that you want to that audience. Again, if you'll see some folders up top here, that means if you have something you're working on, things that are in very similar categories, it's a really great way to keep all of your audiences organized, and you can put them in different folders so you can easily access them as well. For the sake of the demonstration today, though, I'm going to start with a new audience. I'm going to click this here, and the first thing I want to do is I want to make an audience of women between the age of 25 and 34, and we're going to say that they have an interest in beauty. I'm going to write beauty here, and then if I just click the check mark, that will automatically save here, and it will be on my list on the left-hand side. So the first thing I want to do is add an attribute. Once I click that button, you will see on the right-hand side a toolbar will appear. So I want to click on GWI Core, and the first thing I want to do is go into demographics and select the gender. Obviously for this instance, we want to select females, and you'll see it over here, and click the check. I like to call this middle area here kind of like the drawing board. So this is where everything appears here once you start to build your audience, and that's where you can go ahead and make changes and edit exactly what the audience is right in that area. So the next thing then we want to do too is select, again in demographics, the ages. So the first group I'm going to do is age 25 to 34. We already have an age group set up for that, so we can go ahead and just click that off and hit save. Next thing I want to do is we want them to have an interest in beauty products. So we're going to go into attitudes and lifestyle, attitudes and interests, and personal interests. And from there, pretty close to the top, we'll see beauty products. So we want to select that and hit the check mark. So right now what this is telling the system is that we want females aged 25 to 34 who have an interest in beauty products. A few things to point out on this page as well. At the bottom, you always want to keep in mind the wave of data. So you want to take into account the total number of results that we do have at the bottom. Rule of thumb for this is always above 150 would be representative of a pretty good sample size. You'll have enough sample to work with there once you start to go in and query the data. Something to take note of as well is you'll see that these are in red. What that means is that we weren't asking a specific question at that time. So we weren't at this point, it would be the beauty products personal interest. We weren't asking that question in Q3 2010, so that will be red because you'll have 0 results for that at that time. Everything else will be in blue, and you can see the number by the waves of data that we have. So that will change. The other thing I want to show you here as well is the copy audience function. So if you're doing a lot of audiences that are pretty similar but just might have one thing or two things a little bit different, but the base of it is the same, it's really easy. It saves a lot of time to just copy the audience. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to select this, and you'll see that it's automatically duplicated. And it comes up here with women 25 to 34 beauty copy. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And now I'm going to make my audience, which is 35 to 44. So I'll save that, and now it has been saved really quickly. So obviously now I want to change the age group. So I can just go in here. Once I select this attribute, it will automatically pop up the age groups here. I'm going to select 35 to 44 and deselect 25 to 34 and save it right here. So now we have our second audience, and that took, you know, seconds to do instead of having to go through and find each different attribute again. So now that we have both of our audiences saved, what we want to do is go ahead and query the data. So this is how we can go through to our chart builder. And the first thing we want to do is select the filters on the right-hand side. So as soon as you go into Chart Builder, you'll see that these already come up for you, this toolbar, it appears. The first thing is the audience that you want to select. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to select our two audiences that we just created. So we want to take a look at the differences between women who are interested in beauty based on their age. So we want to see how 25 to 34-year-olds consume media, have their online activities compared to women 35 to 44. The next filter we want to select are the different countries. So today what we want to do is we just want to take a look at the US. So I'm just going to look at women in the US with these with this interest and these age ranges. But you can also select multiple countries here if you wanted, and that would just group them all together so you'd be able to see the picture a little bit more globally. And then the last thing here at this time would be to select the waves of data. So rule of thumb for us is to always select the last 4 waves of data, the last 4 quarters. So that really takes into account any seasonality, but also it gives you, the most up-to-date information. If you do not make a selection here, it will take you all the way back to when we started collecting data, which is Q2 2009. That might end up making it be a little bit skewed if the data is a little bit older, but recommend doing the last 4 waves of data. Another helpful hint to point out, right now we have this highlighted. If you just go ahead and click this again, it will move that toolbar off to the side, and that allows this to keep this area really nice and open so we can see the charts really clearly. So the next thing we want to do is show menu and go into core again. So what you'll notice is this on the left-hand side, this toolbar looks very similar to the toolbar that you saw on the right-hand side when we were building the audience. They are exactly the same. So you can build your audience with all of our data points and then query against the same data points. That's important to keep in mind as you're going through and figuring out who your audiences are. So the first thing we want to do here, another thing that we always really recommend getting started with, is selecting the question of audience size. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this quickly. Okay, so what we want to do is see the audience. The reason we want to do this is we want to just have a baseline for the numbers that we're looking at as we're going through the platform. Again, as I mentioned in terms of the waves of data while you're building the audience, it's also important here to see the responses. So the responses are the number of people who took the survey. So again, our rule of thumb for that is 150. That it will give you, a really good sample size and something you can work off of. But just to give you an idea of what these numbers also mean, the different data points here. So we have the audience percentage. If you hover over this, this will give you the help mode for this and tell you what it is. So as you're going through different questions, you can see kind of the example of how that is. But the audience percentage is how many people out of your 2 audiences took the survey for that question. So it's the percent of your audience that that data point applies to. And then the data point percentage is actually the inverse of the audience percent. So it's out of all the people in the US who took the survey, how many of them are made up of women between age 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 who are interested in beauty in that time period that we're selecting. So that's within the last 4 waves of data. And the universe is the weighted representative size of who took the survey. So it's the estimated actual number of people your selection equates to in the world. And the index is a likelihood number. So this is, the base for this is 100. So anything above 100 means that they're more likely to have the attribute, and anything below 100 means that they're less likely to have that attribute. So definitely the index is something that's very important to take a look at, as well as the audience percent are very, very helpful when you're looking through the graphs and trying to really paint a picture of who your audience is. So now we have an idea of the numbers that we're working with here. What I want to do is take you through a few things to help really find out more about who our audience is. So the first thing we want to look at is their media consumption. So we really want to see the daily time that they spend on media. And we'll just go ahead and do the media consumption segmentation here. So what this does is it takes into account different types of media they could be using. So right off the bat, when you're looking at this, you're probably seeing that all the graphs, the lines are exactly the same. Obviously, that's not true. So what we want to do is select the options here. And this allows us to select if we only want heavy users, high users, medium, light, or non-users of media. So for this example, I'm really only interested in the high users and the heavy users. So I'm going to deselect the others and just leave those. Once I click out of it, you'll automatically see that this chart starts to change. Looks a little bit better. And again, we also have data points here. So if you weren't really interested in how they're using game consoles, you can deselect that if you'd like, and any others that you'd like to deselect as well. But we're going to go ahead and keep this as is. So what we can see from this is that these women in these age ranges do use social networks and television majority of the time. Another thing to point out while we're on the screen as well, you can always find out which audience you're looking at. If you wanted to switch these around for the age ranges, you could do that as well. If you hover over this, you will also see which audience you are dealing with, and the numbers like the audience percent, data point, universe, and index also in there as well. Just helps you keep organized and really remember what you're working with here. So now just to give you some other pointers on some of the different buttons you'll see here, some other functionality things that you can do. First, I want to draw your attention to changing the chart type. So right here, we can go ahead and change this to be a more horizontal type, and then also change it into descending order. So you'll see all the charts go from descending order. Again, this clearly shows us the difference between how our two audiences are consuming media. Also, while we're here, I want to point out the difference we have saving a bookmark and saving a query. So the difference here is if you save a bookmark, what that means is it's going to save this exact question for you. So if it's a question that you feel like you're going to come back to, so regardless of your audiences, regardless of the time frame, you know that when you come into the Pro platform, one of the first things you want to take a look at is media consumption, for example. So you want to bookmark that so you can easily access this question, so you don't have to go through the toolbar on the left-hand side. Bookmarking is a great option then. So you'll go ahead and just click this, and you'll see that it automatically now saves into my bookmarks tab at the top. So your most recent bookmarks will be saved at the top every time, and so on. So as you're going through the platform, if you're doing a big run of a few different questions that you're querying, you can just bookmark them there, and they will continue to save most recent at the top. The next thing then is saving the query. So the difference between saving a query and a bookmark, when you save a query, it actually is going to save the data exactly as you see it here. So what that means is it's going to save the question, but it's also going to save the audience, it's going to save the location, and it's going to save the waves of data that we're looking at. So for this, I would recommend then changing the name of it. So we'll want to see the media consumption, and we want to see women, and we'll do for this 25 to 44 beauty. So that way when we come through, we'll save it here. When we come through, we'll see at that time we were looking at the media consumption for those two audiences. So it's really helpful, something really important to keep in mind. It really does help you save time, but also really go through and really save these questions and have easy access. Also, what you can do here is I want to point out, you'll see this button that looks like an export download function. If you just click that, this allows you to export multiple queries. So we can just go ahead and select these here, for example. And if you're trying to paint a picture, you want to then send a report to somebody else on your team or even to your client, you can go ahead and export multiple queries. And you just click this here, it will automatically export into Excel. And we'll come over multiple tabs based on the question that you do select to have exported. Same thing with bookmarks. You can go ahead and export multiple bookmarks at the same time as well. So now, after we kind of take a look at the media consumption, what we want to do is go back into our categories. And now we want to look at their online activities and behavior. So we're really interested in what our two audiences are doing in the last month for their online activities. Let's do any device. So we're not going to be specific here about if they're on their PC or laptop, mobile or tablet. We just are interested in what they're doing online in the last month. So again, what you can see here is that they visit social networks. So we saw that from our previous question, and that they use a search engine. So once we take a look at this information, again, if we want to go ahead and save this, this will help build a really good picture of who our audience is. But now we have a really good idea. Okay, so our two audiences do spend a lot of time on social networks. So now if we can go through here, just to quickly take you through how you can help really build out who this audience is, we want to go ahead and look at social media now. So we know they're using it. We want to see exactly which different platforms they're using on social networks and they're visiting and using. So we're going to go into social media and the reach for social media and see what they're visiting and using. Now if I just move this over here, we can get a really good picture of all the different social media applications that they visited in the past month. So this could be on their PC, laptop, mobile, or tablet. So we'll see here from this information, and if you want, I can go ahead and change this chart again this way so you can really see it clear. Another thing to take in account here based on some functionality of the Pro platform, you'll see that we have 40 different data points. That's a lot, and some of these might not be relevant to you in terms of how you may be using social media to market to these audiences. So just a little trick here. If you don't want to see all of these, again, some of these, as you can see at the top, are in China or Japan only. So you can deselect all of them by clicking the circle there. And then you can scroll through and you can just select the specific types of social media that you're interested in taking a look at this time. So that's a really good kind of really quick trick to see exactly how your audiences are using these by drilling down on the data points that are really relevant to you at the time. So from here, again, we see pretty clearly that our audiences are heavily using Facebook. But what's interesting to point out as well in this example is that our two audiences heavily over-index for Pinterest. So what this is telling me is that women aged 25 to 34 are 80% more likely to use Pinterest, and women 35 to 44 are 60% more likely to use Pinterest. So there's just some really interesting numbers to take a look at to really help you build your campaign. Another thing you can do here as well that I want to show you quickly is you can download just one question. So I showed you how you can save the questions, queries, save the queries, and then download multiple. But I'm just interested in exporting one right now. So I want this question. This is really good information for me. I want to take a look at this a little more. So what I'm going to do is export it. You'll see it automatically goes into Excel. And you can see here, let me just expand this. You can see that it'll give you all the information you need to see. So you'll see which question we were asking at the time, what the base, the countries, and the different waves of data we're looking at. And then you'll actually see the question that we were asking. And then from here, you can take a look at our two different audiences broken up here, and then the audience percentage, data point, universe, and so on. So this is a really good way to have this raw data exported to take a look at and revisit it at any time or pass it along to your team as well. We'll hop back into the platform here. Now, another thing that's really interesting, and this is really great data I think we might have an audio issue. Okay, we're good. Just want to make sure everybody can still hear me. So if you have any issues with the audio or see my screen, please send that in through as well, and Adrian can help you out. But as I was saying, so we have our brand data available here. So this was a pilot back in Q4 2016, something that we are continuing to update. So in our newest survey, we will have more information on that for you as well. So this will continue to expand. We're going to expand the brands that we do have, as well as those numbers will obviously grow, so you'll be able to get more robust data from there as well. So what I want to do is scroll through here, and you'll see that we do have brands for healthcare, hair care, skincare, and cosmetics. So this is really relevant to me because I'm a beauty product company, and I want to see, how our two audiences engage in different brands. So I can take a look at this first. Again, you'll see here we have to select the options. So I want to go ahead and just really use people who use weekly or use daily, and really get an idea for how they are using these products. So I'll change the chart here to get a better view, so we can really see side by side. Pretty much the clear winner here would be Dove for these products. So these are our two audiences are engaging with Dove, Maybelline, and L'Oreal pretty primarily here, but we can see the next thing that's also really interesting is the recommendation and consideration. So we can get a really good picture that, okay, 50% of our audience uses Dove. So let's see what then our audience would recommend to use. So now you can see on the recommendations that our audience between the women 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 would recommend these other different beauty brands to others. So that's something that's really interesting, as well. You can use this information to your advantage then to see, who your audience is and how they're made up a little bit more. And then also which type of brands that they would consider. So this is something that we didn't see in the beginning, but Elizabeth Arden is now taking ahead here for the women 35 to 44 for how they would consider using other brands in the future. So that's really helpful information. Again, the brand data is something that will be expanding as well. One thing I just want to show you quickly, so I'm just going to take you through, again, back to our media consumption question. So I want to show you another functionality that is really helpful here in our product, and we'll go ahead and use high users and heavy users again. I want to show you our splitter function. So what this means is that you can take our audiences. We know they're made up of females 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 who have an interest in beauty products. But what I want to do is I want to take a look a little bit closer about, let's say, for example, if they have children in the household. So we can break that up based on the number of children that they have. So you'll see it goes over from 0 to 1 to 2, or we can use at the bottom here our function to split this again, and you can see the number of children that they have at the bottom split up by the different data points of the media consumption that they're using. So that's something really interesting to take a look at as well. You can split it up a little bit more. Another way you can use this, which is really cool, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can see waves of data. So you can see how things are trending over time, and how our audiences use these different media, how they consume media differently over different quarters of data. So that's a really, really helpful tool to use here, something that'll really help you with your pitches, and also to understand, how to market to your audiences a little bit better. So that is, an overview of how to use the platform, how to really see the scope of the data that we have available, and then build a better picture. The last thing I want to take you into is dashboards. So again, if you have any questions up until this point, please feel free to send them through the chat, and we will help you out with that as well. So the last thing, just to briefly touch on, are our dashboards. So I'll go ahead and pull up the profile first. So what you can see here, our dashboards are a really great way to see a high-level overview of more than one question at one time about who your audience is. So for this one, this is a profile. So we can see, we know already the gender and the age groups, but we can see more about our audience side by side in these really awesome graphs. So there are some preloaded dashboards in your accounts. They're all of our flagship reports that we do have. So this is our profile one. So you can get an idea more of their income segment, their urban context, so where they live, if they live more urban, suburban, or rural areas, the level of their education, relationship status, presence of children, and personal interests. So this again is a really, really great way to take a look at a few different questions side by side. Another thing here, we were focusing on social, so I'll take you through what this looks like. So you can see these two questions next to each other, so you don't have to go through and look at one individually. So you can see the difference here between members of Facebook or people who just visit Facebook. YouTube is always an interesting one because you can visit YouTube, but you don't have to actually be a member of YouTube to use it. So you can see how those numbers change as well. And then you can go through the type of people that they follow on social media, the reasons why they use social media. So for example, within our audience here, our younger age range, the 25 to 34-year-olds, use social media to follow celebrities and celebrity news. So it's something really important to know when you are marketing to them as well. So you might want to do a partnership with a celebrity who uses your beauty product, for example, and that would be a good way to reach your target audience. Another thing you can do here is you can also go ahead and export any of these dashboards. And what this would look like is similar to the Excel spreadsheet I showed you with just one question, but it would just have all of these individual questions on multiple tabs throughout it. And again, another really great way to see all these questions side by side, pass it along to your team, and again, really, really help build out who your audience is. So that is the end of our presentation here today for our Pro Platform walkthrough. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach them. I'll put them through to our chat function here. Again, we will reach out if there are any questions that we cannot answer today, and make sure you get all that information you need. If you have any questions once you go into the platform on your own, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager or just customer success at globalwebindex.net. We have a whole team here who will be available to help you. We also have our chat function, which our support team will be able to help you answer any questions. And again, we're very happy to help you build audiences and really make sure you're seeing the scope of our data and how you can use that to your advantage to really market the best way to your audiences that you need. Thank you again for your time today, and if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks.